There you go. Okay, thanks very much. Right, morning everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to come, and I've made a mental note of all of those who haven't taken the time to come. Okay, so their futures are finished here. If you're watching online, tell me, because then I'll let you away with it. Okay, listen, first and foremost, thanks very much to everyone who turned up at the 10th celebration there recently in Celtic Manor. With really good night. I enjoyed it anyway, and so after that I really don't care about anyone else. But it's just the first event. We're going to do something in the summer as well. We'll have a decent event in the summer as well, and some other bits and bobs throughout the course of the year. Some of the engagement team will know that we need to get involved, tenants a lot more in what we're up to this year, and Ben is busily ordering more kit with our logo on absolutely everything. And Mary, no, it's not you, it's Elaine I need to talk to. Elaine's not here now. Okay, right, just make sure all the DLO stuff comes out properly logoed. Yes. You know that you will pay for it yourself if it doesn't come out. Yes. Yeah, or with the logo. Yes. No mistakes. No wrong colours. No. Okay. Everyone understands absolutely what you were ordering. Yes. Okay, is this been taped? Okay. I was talking to Becky when I said that. You heard her reassurances. Okay, good. Okay, but we need to brand everything over right now. We need to brand everything over the course of the year. Mark, the 2 electric cars are coming this week.
16th of March.
16th, and are they being wrapped before they get here or after they get?
Yeah, well, they will be wrapped.
Yeah, they look like they look like. But are you putting on the stuff about zero emissions or something on it as well?
Yes, I want to try and incorporate that on the 10-year, you know.
Good. Oh, to see that, Becky, huh? To see, leading by example. That's what we're looking for. Okay. What a story about wrapping the vans, Ben? Are we putting on an additional sticker or something on it?
10-year sticker.
Yeah, check with Graham. Okay, so we get one of those stuck on the van as well. Okay, underneath the MHA logo. If we can just get away with putting on just the yellow thing, it should be just fine. It's important, you know, because we're in a hell of a different place now than we were 10 years ago. It's interesting at the jobs fair up in King Henry the other night, they were saying that ours was the busiest stand up there, you know what I mean? So the brand recognition in the county is very, very high. And about what we were talking about years ago is that you would want people in this county to think getting a job with us is something really, really useful and a good thing to do, and that's clearly slowly, because you were saying were you at the Monmouth one yet this year?
One, yeah, and it was really busy.
Yeah, really busy as well, you know, so we're really, really well recognised around the county now. And as I said, I always want to be in a position where if any parent thought their kid got a job with us in the county, I think it would be a really good thing. Nobody's more proud of their child having a job with us than Becky's dad. Okay, right. But the interesting thing though is the reason I just want to talk about that quickly, as I was talking to the trades guys about this earlier on, is the situation in regards to the number of kids who came up, and particularly boys, who aren't necessarily academically gifted, or, well, they might well be, but they haven't tried hard enough maybe, or for a variety of reasons. Because there's no reason they should be performing any worse than the girls. But the sheer number of them who want to get things like trade jobs and that. Now the thing I thought was interesting is the number of boys, not many girls come up, so it's still a problem there with the number of girls who are looking for it. But the ultimate problem, no matter what, is all of these people want a proper career and they can't get one. Because they cannot get an employer to sponsor them so that they can go into college and do an NVQ in the trade of their choice. So it's a little bit of a nonsense that they're talking about the effect of Brexit on the construction industry and labour shortages and all that, when in actual fact loads and loads of people want to go into construction and can't get into construction because they can't find an employer who will sponsor them through construction, and as a result then they give up, because if you don't get in at 16 or 18 it's much harder to get in. It's much harder to get in later on. But I mean, are we recruiting any this year, do you know?
I think we're considering not plaster, a painter and another trade.
Okay, yeah. So it's important because we have a responsibility as well.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, you know, just to remind everyone, last time we put out an electrician apprentice, I think we had 120 applications for one post. So it just shows you how many. So when you talk about a shortage of labour in the industry, it's not caused by people not wanting to be in the industry. It's caused by the industry not wanting to develop people within the industry. So we have a responsibility, and I think we need to be thinking a lot harder every year from now on to make sure, even if we don't necessarily have full capacity, that we should be playing. Really struggling, because I did a jobs fair in Cardiff recently as well. Same thing again. Loads of boys in particular wanted to get in. Certainly, actually, I had more girls, but the girls wanted the wanted the higher paid jobs. So they wanted the engineering and the architectural and surveying jobs, but on the other, and not enough of them wanted to be on the trade side, and that's what we could do with a bit more balance, because the ones we have are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're doing really well. So need to think about stuff like that going forward, and that would be the mark of us as a local employer, because one of our ambitions is to create a lot more employment locally. Some of that's coming along shortly because of we will shortly be getting involved in a couple of the developments, towards the latter end of this year, for the new OAP properties and starter homes that we're starting to build. So we will do maybe about 30% of the work in those, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it's about 30%,
Yeah,
because
we do the internal.
do the internals, yeah, and we do a hell of a job. And remember, when you buy a house, the outside is great, but what you really show off to your visitors is the inside, and we do a hell of a job finishing off the insides, you know, and we really will present a very, very good product at the end of it. So I think that the more of that we can do, certainly we learnt a lot of lessons the last 2 times, John, haven't we? How did you think we performed in Poplars compared to Sharon Newton?
Oh, we absolutely smashed it at Poplars.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Yeah, in comparison, yeah. But I think
more white this time, won't we?
Yeah.
Use more contractors for the stuff that we don't tend to specialise in.
yeah, I mean, and the interesting one I thought about Poplars, that I was talking to, were you there yesterday? No, we weren't. We went through 9 different bricklayers on the job, you know. So that's an indictment of that profession and maybe the way they're trained, because a little bit of detail, they weren't interested. They just wanted big, long, nice, straight lines. Well, what an indictment of a trade, that the interesting part of the job is the one where you have to think about it a little bit and do a bit of prepping that they're not interested in doing. So the industry certainly then has an attitude problem as well. You know, in one small job and 2 bungalows, had gone through 9 bricklayers, I thought was an absolute disgrace, and a real indictment of the mindset within the industry, that if it's not straight and brings you in loads of money right now, that it's not worth doing. Whereas in actual fact, why don't these guys think along the lines of, I might make less than that because it's a bit awkward detail, or you should negotiate that you get paid more for a bit of detail, but do it well, and we'll ring you direct the next time. We won't go through the agency, and you keep all the money yourself rather than them taking 25% or whatever their cut is of your take. So certainly I think, you know, some of the things we need to think about going forward is the mindset of people in the industry as well, not just about taking on apprentices. And I think we got a real challenge there. We won't be able to change the industry, but we shouldn't stop trying to play our small part in it as well. Okay, so some of the other stuff we've been up to, just agreed a rent increase at board, agreed 4.5% this year. We actually, for about the 3rd year in a row, we've taken a lot less rent increase than we were allowed. We were allowed to put up the rents by 4.5%. Well, not every year. You're allowed to put up the rents by inflation plus 1.5% plus £2. So this year inflation was 3%. The 1.5 brings up to 4.5, and then £2. But the last 3 years, the board have not taken the £2. Now that, of course, has a significant impact on our income levels, because the £2 actually really would relate to about would be another 2.5% on top of that again. You know, that's a lot of income foregone, but they are right. They have made the right decision, and that's Lou, you were at board, Lou, weren't you? Where we had a hell of a discussion about it, didn't we? Yeah. It really was a tough discussion, because we're caught in the bind between maximising income for ourselves but making sure the properties are affordable for tenants. My argument at board is that we should be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And what I mean by that is that we're meant to be a low-cost housing provider. If we start putting up the rents as much as we can, eventually we get to the stage where it'll be a disincentive for people to work. But yet we say in our vision that we want our community to be brilliant communities with a brilliant quality of life. We talk about aspirations. Well, your aspiration can't be to stay on benefits because your rents are too high to have a job. We've got to make sure we get that balance right between what's a reasonable percentage of your take-home pay to pay in rent, whilst keeping our incomes at a level which will allow us to continue to maintain the properties and build new ones going forward. So we looked at the tenant insight information, and it's not accurate. People have clearly understated their income, because if their incomes were what they said were, our rent take would be about 44% of their disposable income. Well, that's patently a nonsense. It isn't, because the rents are half the market rate in this county. So what we've done then is we did a calculation that if you're on a minimum wage working 37 hours a week, what percentage would our rents be of that amount? And that's somewhere around 31%. which is probably a lot closer. In actual fact, if you're on tax credits and all that, it'll be even less again. So that's the base that we're working on, but we really figure that we can't go above about 33%. It would be unfair, and then we become a real disincentive to work. The interesting thing about work, or any being involved in trying to get people into work, is everybody wants a well-paid job, but the only way to get a well-paid job is to have a poorly paid job first, because you grab your experience in the poorly paid job, and eventually hopefully you've got that wherewithal and the personal ambition to work hard, show really good attitude, and you get promoted and you get more pay. But the difficulty is to get people into the poorly paid job, which kind of leads me on to the welfare reform and the fact that universal credit starts getting to be rolled out in Monmouthshire this June. Now we have some people on universal credit. We never actually have gone much above 30%, because the cohort of people who are on it already are people who are just coming onto it and have been working. Well, those exact same people are quite quickly back in work, usually speaking. So the job centre will tell you that if somebody becomes unemployed, 50% of them are re-employed within 3 months, and about 80% are re-employed within 6 months, and then only a few then become really more difficult to get employment. So we've been churning through people, so as they've come on but have not stayed on, and this is the impression that it really gets on my nerves in the papers. They always give the impression that once you're on benefits, you are never anything but on benefits for the rest of your life, which is patently a nonsense. People are on and off, but the downside of being on and off is universal credit in particular will really mess you about, potentially, because you're waiting 4 to 6 weeks for the first money, and then you wonder why you need so many food banks. Well, you need the food banks because you're running out of money. We know from tenant insight, and this part we do believe is accurate, is that they've hardly any savings. So you go in, within a week or two, you are really, really struggling, and it only takes one event like the washing machine breaking down or whatever, and you are in massive trouble. And straight away your choice are between cleaning the kids' clothes or eating. And that's why you need the food banks until such time as the money comes in again. Some people go there the whole time. Once again, the government, really stereotype to make it out of it as if it's just people with addictions go there the whole time because they're using the spare cash then that they would have spent on food to satisfy their addiction. Whereas, of course, there's some of those, but we can see in our own properties there's only a very small percentage of people like that. That the vast majority of people are just normal folk who are just in a bad place, a bad time for a short period of time, but because lots of people are in and out of work, the demand remains constant. Well, not remaining constant, it's growing. So that link though between the rent, affordability, and about not being a disincentive to work is really important, because if you think of it, if you're on really low income and you're only a few quid worse off in benefits, it's a start. You have to be quite ambitious, don't you, to want to continue to go to work, because going to work can be a real hassle. You might spend 2 or 3 hours commuting every day to a job that doesn't pay very well, when you could be at home watching Jeremy Kyle. I mean, the interesting one with the Dad's Can case, which I thought was really, really interesting. I think I've told you about this before, but it really, really struck me. It's about when they did the dry stone walling, and I know that's my favourite story, but that's what one of the guys said, and he said, if I hadn't been doing this today, I would have been sitting at home arguing with my missus about what had happened on Jeremy Kyle. And it's just, it struck me ever since. It was one of the saddest stories that that I've ever heard. I mean, if I walk in a home and somebody has by accident left that on the television, I immediately have a meltdown. I immediately have a meltdown. What is that shite doing on my telly? And then don't even think about it. So I just wanted to spell, because the people on it, the reason it's so popular, they reinforce and satisfy every stereotype that people have. And it's a nonsense, because the vast majority of people aren't like that. I mean, we had another case there last week up in Abergavenny, and a woman's leaving her dog running around the communal areas, and I nearly got physically sick when I saw the picture of the communal area, and said to the housing officer, first I said, you need to be careful, because you can become a little immune to that you see it and you think it's not awful because you've seen it before. And I was genuinely horrified when I saw it. So I told her to contact the tenant, tell them that we were going to go to court to get a court order to say they were unfit to be the owner of a dog. But before the housing officer got that far, clearly she had a conversation with her, and the woman saw the error of her ways. But when we went up this week, the place you could eat your dinner off the floor of the communal area, you know what I mean? With that little bit of push, without being hectoring, but a little bit of push and a little bit of ambition, because the key about it is, I've got to show it to you sometime, the thing that broke my heart, and I've got to say I was genuinely upset when I saw that anyone could think this was okay, was that the place, have you seen it, Keris? There's Lauren showed you. The whole area is covered in massive lumps. The dog must be the size of a bloody elephant. They have massive lumps of poo all over. But there was a little pink Wendy house in the corner. You know what I mean? There was a lot of dog poo outside little Wendy house. So there was somebody who sent their kid out to play in a Wendy house in a communal area covered in dog poo the size of your bloody head. You know, how anyone can think that, no, it isn't okay. So part of getting them ambitious for people to recognise what's okay and what isn't okay. Certainly I'm very interested in the tenancy health checks that people are doing, and I'm really encouraged by what the housing officer is saying coming back, that the vast majority of people do make an effort to keep the properties in good condition and are proud to show us around. You know what I mean? That's massively encouraging for me, and it's nothing that I didn't expect, but on the other hand you love it when those expectations are reinforced by people who are out on site. So kind of moving on from the rents and making sure that we're not a disincentive to work. There's stuff about the IT, the housing management stuff still isn't working. It's incredibly frustrating. They have traced the problem to a member of our IT team. And they said, just leave it. Just leave the stuff alone, Christian. Just leave. Don't give me a dirty look again. Okay, we had a row on the telly last time. Alright, just leave it out. What's something funny now? You're laughing nervously or funny? You think it's hilarious or is that nervous? Which is it? Make a choice. You don't know. Switch it off and turn it back on again. Okay, but it's very, very frustrating because there's a couple of key things about rent postings that it just won't do properly. So we've, in the last couple of days, we've been cleaning down all the information we've sent them already. They think they have a fix and we're going to try and retest it. The trouble is if they don't fix it very, very quickly, we won't be able to go live in June. And if we don't go live in June, we have to wait until October. And you would think, well, there's plenty of opportunities between June and October to do it, because we can only do it once every 4 weeks when the housing benefit payments align on the system. That's the only time you can go live, once every 4 weeks. But what we don't want to do is, once we start getting a load of universal credit claims in June, having to be trying to implement the housing management systems and not working properly at the same time. We've told them we will not go live until it works absolutely properly. So therefore we need to leave a few months for us to get to understand how much workload that's going to create, and then we'll try in October again. It is frustrating because we need it to work perfectly right now, so we can train people in the coming month, so that by the time we start getting a lot of universal credit claims, we've had a bit of time on the system. Even if it was only a few weeks before a lot of claims come in, but it just gives you a chance to get proficient and to manoeuvre our way around. Anyway, so we've had a meeting with them yesterday, the Tuesday this week, the usual stuff. You know, we were demonstrated how upset we were. Interestingly enough, the same crowd are trying to develop a repair system for us, and it is tantalisingly close, but it's just doing a couple of key things which are just downright essential for a housing management system. It's not doing them right, and we just can't do it. They reckon that the repair system will be ready for testing in June this year. So it'll be interesting because we're getting screwed by Total at the moment. Yeah. You know, last year the Total, which are our current repairs provider, what they do to force you to buy their new system, whatever that might be, which is generally speaking the old system, just makes it look a little different or prettier. After a certain number of years they'll stop supporting it, which means that when you ring up a maintenance problem they won't do it for you, or if they will do it for you, you've got to pay a lot more. So for example, up until this year we've been paying £15,000 maintenance for Total every year, and the sentence to bill this year is £45,000. And that's how they force you into going on to a new system. You're caught in a trap, because we haven't developed the new system in Civica yet. They probably know that we're thinking of a different system and are trying to extract as much money from us as they possibly can on the way out the door, and less of it's working properly, isn't it? Elaine seems very frustrated.
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah. So which is how the business operates. I can't stand them. Did you know that? Did you know that?
I can't either.
For the camera, Christian mumbled, I can't either. Okay. I didn't know whether you were trying to pass wind or anyway, whatever. Okay, so listen, that's where we are with those. But ultimately, if the thing works in the end, the dream scenario is that we have a housing management system which works off the same platform as the repair system, which then talks with the asset management system. And if we can do that, we'd be the only housing organisation in the UK that's got the 3 systems which interact with each other properly. Now what that does is it should, in the end, give you better quality information. And when you get better quality information, it's harder to make the wrong decision, because the information is more likely to point you in the right direction, and that's where it saves you money. Now, it'll make us a little bit quicker, but the key is the quality of information that it produces that will allow you to make better decisions. And we have been anticipating some of the problems coming up with universal credit and the additional cost of repairs. We're figuring out how we're going to save the money to make up for the loss of income, the additional resource we'll have to deploy, and the additional cost we'll have to pay. So myself and Karen went out with the asset management team, and we've had to have a really good look at the gardens, haven't we, Tim? And Tim, yeah, I know, I saw you sleep there, but you didn't fool me. We've been doing an incredible job in the gardens. We have been doing an incredible job. They look, don't they? They look amazing, Tim, don't they? Yeah, they do. They do look absolutely amazing. But we went out and we saw that. You were with when we saw the property down in Collicow, weren't we? Opposite the chip shop, where Shane Galvin, if you're watching, where you go every time you're in Collicow at lunchtime, and like we'd have to spend maybe 30 or 40 grand in that garden, won't we? But the garden is well kept. That's the amazing thing. The garden is well kept. But to do the works that be required, we could have spent, and we were thinking, okay, there might be any getting away with in that particular garden, but there must be other places then that we've got to do stuff and make a decision. So some of the stuff was, a lot of our walls with the bricks are very porous, so it's freeze-thaw action in the winter, because they're porous, the water gets in, then the frost comes along, with the frost to frost makes water expand, and the bricks get blown, so the front of the brick will blow off, but then it exposes the interior side, which is even more porous than the outer surface. But we've had to make some decisions about whether we should replace those walls, and where there's minimum damage, we're just not going to replace them going forward. Tim and the guys will concentrate much more just on the purely health and safety stuff, and maybe less on the aesthetics. Some of the stuff we were talking about was not putting in double gates on gardens, because when you put them in, there's not enough room to close them when your car's in there anyway, unless they open out onto the road, which you probably shouldn't do anyway. So they're decorative rather than necessary. So just having to make decisions like that, you know, you save a bit of money here, you save a bit of money there, and the accumulation of those little bits of savings hopefully will help us cover any of the additional costs or lack of income that we will get this year. But we've got to get that IT right, because sorry, we're going to say something, Tony?
Yeah, well, that property you were talking about, John's number 1 Green Lane.
Yeah.
The interesting part was we met with building control down there earlier this week.
Yeah.
To look at the Dangerous Wall Act, because those walls that run up the side.
That's right, yeah, they're the neighbours' walls, aren't they? Yeah.
I'm not sure. So we met with building control, Daniel and myself, and they're going to try and archive when the builders, we don't know who sold the land to that.
Yeah.
It might have been Monmouthshire County Council that may have sold that land to that development. We're not sure. The interesting part was we met the building controller who's going to send us some information on the Section 77 Dangerous Wall Act and what they can do in relation to the private owner.
Yeah.
If it is their wall, so we're waiting for that information.
And there must be their wall, because there's a mishmash of all sorts there, isn't it?
The interesting part was, while we were there, one of the private owners poked his head over the fence.
In true Wales fashion.
There was Daniel, myself, and the building control officer, and he says, "What are you doing, lad?" And I said, "Oh, didn't tell him what we were doing."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, we're just having a look around, checking things." And he says, "Oh, I just wondered if you were going to build it." He said, "I'll do anything." He said, "I've just bought the property." He moved in there 3 months, 3 months previously. So he said, "Oh yeah, so that's your wall there, is it?" And he said, "I don't know." He bought the property.
He didn't know where it was going
on. He didn't even know.
Yeah. I suppose when you're buying a house, you tend to be looking at the inside, don't you? And not your responsibilities. Yeah. You certainly won't thank us for the bill.
Which he could be getting a letter for fairly quickly, saying knock it down and rebuild it.
Yeah.
Or aware of that.
Well, we should certainly suggest to me, we wouldn't necessarily have to build a masonry wall. You know what I mean? You could rebuild a wooden one much cheaper. Yeah, but it just shows you, like, stuff like that all over the place, isn't there? I mean, one of the ones that Tim and the guys face is that I was saying, you know, can you not put a slope in the garden? But of course you can't, because the slope would be too great, and there's a lot of retaining walls required right outside the back door, Tim, isn't it? So, and they're never cheap, are they? So you're having to build a wall sometimes about that high, aren't you? with then steps in the middle of it to get up into a garden, which we've tried to make out level enough that there will be some amenity value for it. So it's difficult to save money and stuff like this, but on the other hand, we got to really take a more liberal interpretation of the WHQS, because it just costs too much for the amount of properties that we get through. So the guys will do what, 220, 30 properties this year?
2, 3, 1 on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we need to be able to do the same number of properties for a few $100,000 less. You know, these are the kind of stark choices you face. But on the other, and understand then that at some point you're going to have to come back. For example, the front walls down in the middleway, Tim, wasn't it? A lot of them are blown, but not a lot of them structurally don't need to be replaced. It would be nice to replace them, but structurally they don't. They structurally don't need to be replaced. Well, we're not going to do it. So I say they're the decisions you make, and it's a pity really. But we've done about 700 properties already, haven't we?
Yeah, this is our 5th year. On average, we've done about 250 years.
And it's our 5th year, is it?
It's our 5th year. Yeah.
Alright, so we've done well over 1,000. So that's a hell of a number of properties that have had one hell of a makeover. Okay, so that's it on the IT side. On the development side, we're heading into every year we ratchet it up a bit more. Some years you deliver more properties, but in the background you can be ratcheting it up more to deliver a lot more, because it takes a long time to get on site. A lot of work with planners, a lot of work goes into the tendering side. So start working in Clangunador, which is in Powys shortly, 15 properties. They'll be purely for sale. We're really going to see what lessons we can learn off that. We won't be doing any work in those ourselves. We're talking with a private developer to see if we can do that without going out to tender. So we should be starting on that quite soon. We're starting on Oakley Way shortly, should be there end of April, I think, doing demolition. We're well on the way to finishing Brookside. We're starting on in Dinges, so out in the countryside. That's on a 60-40 side, where we've got to rent out 60% of whatever we build and sell 40, but we get no grant. So the profit we make on the 40 is got to subsidise the build cost of the 60%, so that we can let them at a certain rent. And the risk there is that we don't achieve the sale values on the one for sale that is required to give us profit to cross-subsidise. And this is where, as we go on and we get more sophisticated, you also start taking more risk. Because you're more sophisticated, you think you can take more risk, but the bloody risks are better pay off, you know, because we will be putting a lot of time and effort into this. And with time and effort comes money, and what money means, if you don't get it back, you make a loss, and then if you make a loss, well, then you've got to find the savings from somewhere else to compensate for the loss. So as I said, 15 in Clangunador and Powys. And the interesting I'm thinking about Powys is they call it an economics price elasticity, and effectively that is how far up can we shove the price that people are still willing to go pay for without going over that amount. So you're trying to set the price at an amount that titillates them enough that they're stretched, but you maximise your profit. And in some areas that's inelastic, and when you talk about inelastic prices, it means income levels in a certain area, generally speaking, the vast majority of people are only paid up to a certain amount. And they're only paid up to a certain amount with the best will in the world, no matter what you build, because of the multiplier for mortgages. They can't pay any more than a certain amount for a property. And what we don't know in that area is how elastic the prices are, how far we can shove them for the kind of development. The development will look lovely, but it's expensive to build, and it's expensive to build because it's in the national park. And because in the national park they're looking for a lot of natural stone to be used in the development. The natural stone is slow. If any of you remember the front wall has been built out here, how long it took them to build the front walls. And the guys were busy all day, but like, you know, you're putting on the next, you've got to find a rock that fits the right shape, and they've got good eyes and they can see the rock fairly soon. But it's not like block work, where the block beside you just slap it on and you're moving on to the next one. They've got to pick out rock and maybe chisel off a little bit. You know, it works at a rate of maybe 1/10, even less, 1/20 the speed of normal block laying. So that adds then, time is money, and that adds a lot of cost on, and masons of that type are more expensive than block layers to hire as well. So we need to work with the planner, see if we can reduce the spec a little bit, and that will allow us. Remember, with all that additional detail, you're not getting any more. You probably won't get any more for the house. So they're putting a huge amount of cost, but no extra profit. So we can get rid of some of that detail. That goes straight to our bottom line, as they call it, which means it'll end up with profit. So Oakley Way, last 3 blocks, thank God, are coming down this year. I wanted a dynamite job for those. I wanted to be the person pressing the plunger, but they won't allow us to do any demolition like that. And I told him I know people are really good at explosives, but even still not interested. But I'll be bloody glad to see the back of them. So we'll put about 37 properties. They're a mixture of flats, bungalows and houses. And Oakley Way is being transformed. On our tenant satisfaction survey issue, we haven't done results yet, widely. But satisfaction levels are way, way higher than they used to be. Now, interesting enough, they're not as high as in other areas, even with all the work we've done in it. But we've got to capture Oakley Way right now, as their attitude is on the up, and as the morale is on the up, and see if we can capture them now with that mindset and keep it like that, and add to it, so that when people move in there in the future, the first thing they won't do is put in a transfer request. It's what they used to do up to now. Because they might put in a transfer request and it'll still be there for 8 years, but because they put in a transfer request, never in their mind do they say, this is where I'm going to stay, this is where I'm going to settle. And that makes a massive difference in your attitude to an area and your environment when you think you're going to stay there, because you've got something at stake. And if you've got something at stake, then you're less tolerant of other people misbehaving and running the area down, because that's your area and that's where you're going to stay. So certainly I've told Natasha knows this year that we've got to really work at transforming the attitudes for the long term for people down there. And I've got to say, DLO, you're involved in that down there, Tony. Are you as well, John, yeah? Yeah, on the exit, you're on the interns, John. The interns are incredible, aren't they?
And we're doing the assessment down there on March the 1st.
And what's the assessment going to do?
The assessor going down interviewing some of the tenants.
Oh, right.
That's on March the 1st, so we've identified a number of tenants with all that.
Yeah, good.
We're going down with the assessor on the 1st of March.
Oh, for the customer excellence assessment, yeah.
That's on the 1st of March.
I mean, we're still spending about 19 grand per property, aren't we? Yeah, something like that, isn't it? So, but that's the equivalent of what Glanmore are spending on the same spec, isn't it? Yeah, so that's very encouraging that we can match Glanmore on price anyway. The only thing I need to check is the communal areas and the blocks that we're finishing. And we repaint the communal areas when we're done in the block.
Because we
Can't do it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I was talking in the block if we finished. Well, probably haven't finished any block completely in the inside, have we not? Yeah, okay. Yeah, but the feedback has been fantastic, hasn't it? People are like they look incredible, and they needed to, because we hadn't spent really anything apart from door entry systems. Hadn't spent that down there in 30 years, and it eventually catches up to you, you know. But I'm really proud of what's going on down there. I think when the houses are built at the end, it'll break up the estate a lot better. So Brookside is coming on fine at the moment as well. Dingestow, our developer, will be starting a site there shortly, and we'll be buying about 60% of the properties off him there as well. So there's lots going on. So in the next 4 or 5 years, we look to build about 600 properties, and that's only our projections at the moment. That's without getting our hands on more land. If we get more land, we will. And one of the reasons, like with Timna, not only do we need to save money on the external works to pay for maybe any shortfall in rent issue and any additional staff that we got to put towards collecting rent, but we'll also need that money to pay the interest on far greater debt that we won't have to draw down to do all the development. I suppose one of the things you say is, well, why are we looking to do so much development? Well, if you look at our average cost per property between planned and reactive works, compared to a traditional organisation like Mellon, for example, which is just down the road, they spend half the amount we do on the properties, because they've got far more newer properties in which no major elemental repairs have got to be carried out. So we're spending, say, nearly 4 grand, or say 3 grand per property, but they're spending 1,500. Well, that's £1,500 more they can then use on debt to build even more new properties to reduce their average cost per property on repair and maintenance. So it puts them in a better position. So you're kind of playing catch up with other organisations who are in a better position like that. In fairness to them, they've gone out with that ability then to buy loads more land. So they've got like enough land in which they'll keep themselves busy for years to come, and we need to get ourselves in the same position. Interesting enough, the council are getting more interested in dealing with the likes of us on a bigger scale. Nothing has come of it yet, but they are certainly getting more interest. One of the reasons, of course, they found out, just like us, you're dealing with the big 4 or 5 companies, and they just nail you. They absolutely nail you, and every single which way you could possibly think that they can nail you, they've done it, and then they've taught up 4 more that you hadn't even thought of up to that point. So we've been very strict on the properties that we're buying off, and much to their displeasure, so we will not buy the properties out there in proper condition. And you wonder what kind of condition are private owners getting these properties in. If they know that we go out with proper people who know what to talk about and survey these properties, and will still try and give us a below par property, what on earth are they selling to poor devils in the who don't know anything about buildings and what's right and what's wrong? What are they doing? So I think the council understanding that as well. Now that would be great, because the only way we can compete with the bigger companies in buying land. And the reason is that we don't have the supply chain in the background for the cost of materials or the cost of labour that we can match them with. Their cost per property, materials and labour, are 20% less than us. And yet they would sell the property for the same price as we would. Because actually people don't really value quality as much as we do. The big lesson we learned in Trevor Bone Court in Monmouth is we built a house to a much bigger spec, much better spec, and much more expensively than a private contractor would, and people didn't give a damn. They didn't give a damn. Because what they were interested in is how much did the house cost, not what the quality of the fittings within the house. So we don't want to go down to the level of a Persimmon in this world. I mean, Persimmon are by far and away the worst. They're worst quality, poorest finishes, poorest quality materials, and that's their market. They understand their market, so their houses are a little bit cheaper. Taylor Wimpey will be a little bit better, but theirs are get them out the door as quick as you can. Get them out the door as quick. It's a slightly better materials, but the finish might be a whole lot better. I mean, my favourite one about Persimmon was that you, Karen, went up to their site in Abergavenny, and they thought that you were part of the company, and said, oh, we don't have a Hoover in here because there's not enough room to put a Hoover in the house anywhere. You know, the houses were that small that there was literally not enough room to put a Hoover in. But we can't be in that market. So morally, I just couldn't go there. But on the other hand, we have got to learn some of the lessons that they understand, and they understand their market way better than we do. Is what you build, the quality materials that you use, and for me, the key point would be just doing it once and doing it right, and getting off there without ever having to go back. So that's maybe what we'll try and say, but without ever having to go back, because they are all the time having to go back to the properties that they've built because they've not finished them off properly. But for whatever, because the way they got to churn the money through the books, they do quarterly returns to the stock market. They got to get the money in through the door, so they will give you any old rubbish so long as you pay. And they'll take their chances on you not being picky enough to get them to go back. That's part of their business model, that you won't complain. Therefore you won't go back. Therefore they don't have to pay to rectify the work. So we don't want to be in that market. But on the other hand, we've got to figure out where is the market where people are willing to pay a little bit extra for quality, and really concentrate on that market, because that's the only way that we'll be able to match them. So there's plenty going on in development. As I said, we're starting on site in April with the OAP homes and the starter homes. Now the DLO won't be involved in that until the latter end of the project, because one of the lessons we learned is on the weather dependent work and external work we're not competitive. So we will subcontract that work and we'll do the interiors. But the interiors is key for me, because that's what people see, what's wrong with the properties, and we know we finish off really, really well. And that's where I'm hoping that the quality side that people will appreciate will come in, where we can maybe extract a slight premium in price. We wouldn't need to extract much. We're more expensive, but we're not that much more expensive. So if we can attract a slight premium in price, we'll be able to cover our own costs. So some of the other stuff going on, the regulator has been gave us our annual clean bill of health, said the place is well governed, and the governance essentially is who makes the decisions, how are the decisions made, are the decisions challenged, the recommendations are always challenged. I'll say Lou and then will tell you what board, just like with rents, we really, on the important stuff, we've got a really well qualified board. They really do. You got to know your stuff when you go there. You got to be able to justify it. You got to be able to demonstrate the facts that that's the right decision. And if it's not, if they don't believe, not that they don't believe you, if you think you're wrong, we'll have to do something different. So the regulator has been really impressed with the quality of the board and the quality of the reports that come, generally speaking, from you guys, because you write the reports and you go to board with them, and they've been really impressed with us. So that puts us in a good place. Some of the other stuff. Spoke about the plan from the last thing really is just about job evaluation. You've all had your letters. We had an interesting one from the union accusing us just of leaving letters on tables. Well, that's not the case. The letters were only left on tables of people who were in work that day, Nobody had letters, and I don't know where the rumour came out of. I just want to absolutely say my favourite word, that's bullshit. That no letters, we were sensitive as regards how the letters were sent out. Letters were only sent to people who were either sick or on annual leave. Otherwise, letters were either handed to people or left on tables of people who were in that day. Nobody was not in the day, and I want this. We are trying to do this is a sensitive thing, and you've got to deal with it properly. And we put a lot of time and thought and effort into how you deal with it. So the main thing is just remind you, why do we do job evaluation? Well, it came out of equal pay claims in local authorities in the mid-noughties, about 2005, 2006, 2007. It was clearly demonstrated that women were getting paid for the same job less than men very, very frequently. And that was deemed to be, needless to say, unfair, and of course it was unfair. And I'll give an example how that panned out. One of my brothers works in the bank. He does annual performance reviews with staff. So a guy will come in, and my brother say £5,000 bonus, and the guy will say, you didn't mean that, or you meant to say it was 7. And he said, no, I said 5. And he said, no, you meant to say 7. I'm getting 7. And then an argument would start, and 40 minutes later they would decide on 6. So the guy would go off with 6, which is a grand more than, but time was running out, and you got to get on with the next person. And then a female member of staff come in, say £5 bonus, and they say thank you very much. But straight away you've created an imbalance through attitude, because the guy stayed there and was willing to stay there all day long for the sake of a grand, which actually you think would be very good use of an hour, isn't it? But they would actually end up getting paid a grand more than a woman, and then this extrapolates itself over the years, because if that then becomes your base pay, the guy's percentage uplift in cost of living is from a higher amount of money. So we certainly, whereas we had never subject to a claim, we felt the legislation was right and the court case was right, that people should get paid, absolutely should get paid equally. And job evaluation was a process that we start out when you get paid based on responsibilities attached to your post, which then became a gender neutral way. Those with more responsibility gets paid more, those with less responsibility get paid less. It doesn't mean running less valuable, and there's nothing about the person. The pay is based purely on the responsibility that is connected with the post. The only people that we paid additional, not based on responsibility, were the cleaners, which we put onto a living wage rather than a minimum wage, because they had been on a minimum wage, but we felt the minimum, because nobody here is on a, apart from first year apprentices, I think nobody here is on that, because even after first year on the living wage, aren't the apprentices now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so they're the only ones. So just first year apprentices are the only ones who aren't, and everybody else is on at least a living wage, which is about £2 higher per hour, I think, than, or about £1.50 an hour or something higher than the minimum wage. Anyway, but you understand the rationale was to make sure that we never got open to that. Now I'll give an example. I don't know if any of you have been reading the newspaper about Tesco and the problem they're having. So you have a warehouse, which essentially is getting a box of stuff and putting it on a shelf. That's essentially what they're doing in the warehouse. I simplify for just to explain, but that's essentially what they're doing. And in the shop, then you got people opening up the box and taking the stuff out of the box and putting it on the shelf. But the skill set is the same. It's lifting stuff out, a box or the content, and putting it on the shelf. Now in the warehouse, which is staffed predominantly by men, maybe 80–90%, they get paid £11 an hour. But in the shop, which is staffed predominantly by women, they get paid £7.80 an hour. But the responsibility and the skill set's the exact same. But yeah, and you know, they reckon, and this is about unequal pay, how easily it can happen, even in right in front. Look at BBC and all that. The latest one today is in the consultants, highest top 100 paid consultants in the country. 97 are men, 3 are women, but yet 30% of all consultants are women. So it's crept into every aspect of life, every part of life you think would be different, would be fair. It isn't. The BBC, well, they've been showing up to be just an old boys club for Oxford and Cambridge types, you know, who are so far up their own asses they didn't care. And I thought that woman, the Chinese correspondent, made an incredibly brave move. Isn't it? I was watching television the other night and my mouth fell up and she was presenting the news. You know what I mean? So she doesn't have to go to China now and risk imprisonment for a report they didn't like. She's sitting back here now. They've rehired her clearly as a newsreader, because they're now it's reputational damage. They're trying to recover. Well, you don't even want to be in a position where you have to repair your reputation at all, do you? So that's essentially the driver behind it. We've read on the exercise. The general rule of thumb on job evaluation is that 1/3 of people have reduced salary, 1/3 remained the same, and one third of a pay rise, and that's been repeated time and again. Out of 240 staff here, just 14 went down in salary because of the way that we constructed it. And I know the 14 of them are not happy, and we absolutely understand that, but it is not a reflection on them as individuals, because this is a totally dispassionate. How much responsibility do they have is reflection on the job they have, and how much pay value is attached to that, rather than them and the usefulness of those people to the company. And really, you've got to be sensitive with them about that, because people will take it as a personal reflection. It's not a personal reflection on the person at all. It's purely a reflection on the level of responsibility in the job. And I know that's hard for people to accept, and we're sensitive to it. That's why we have an appeals process, which is undergoing now. So what we told the consultant, we use an external company, which we then verify the stuff internally. And what will happen now is there's an appeal process underway. Some people have put in appeals. We'll use a combination of the external consultant and ourselves probably to resolve those. So what impact has it? This was not a cost saving exercise. The total wage bill on the back of this has gone up by about 2%, which is more than we probably would have done if it had just been a cost of living settlement, because the cost of living in the sector is about 1.5. So this has cost us more than if we'd just gone down a straightforward cost of living uplift. But we're still ending up, and the key for me was not that. This was not about saving costs. It's about having a pay system which rewards people fairly based on the responsibility to post. And none of it is about you as an individual. It's purely, and I can't emphasize that enough, it's about post responsibility pay. That's how it works. And we feel that we've got a very robust payment system here now. And as I said, we know people are upset. The people who aren't upset clearly aren't saying anything, and why would they? But we've got to deal sensitively with the people who are upset, and we will demonstrate the rationale as regards why we came to the conclusion that we did. So as I said, for me, doing the paying that is the worst part of the job. But on the other hand, I'm more determined about that and doing that fairly than I am about just about anything else we do. So much and all, you just stand up here and you know that some people in the room are completely fed up with you. We will do it, and we will do it right. And I won't apologise for doing it right, because we have a fair pay system. That's the ultimate aim. That is the ultimate aim, regardless what anyone thinks. We're doing this. As I said, the total cost in salary is more than we would have paid in the cost of living. So we didn't do this to save money. This is about fairness rather than about saving. So, I mean, I'm open to any questions any of you might have now, but okay, thank you all very much. If you have any appeals, if you're upset about it, make sure you talk to your manager. Don't do it in isolation. We're here to explain the rationale and to help you. Okay, thank you all very much.